Some folks consider the Model L a piece of rolling art, especially for its time. It first hit the streets in 1917 under the keen eye of Henry Leland, who originally founded Lincoln after parting ways with Cadillac. The Model L was essentially a statement of intent. Lincoln wanted to do things differently, marrying careful craftsmanship with robust engineering. Under that gleaming hood was a V8 engine, pretty rare in an era when many manufacturers stuck with inline fours. It delivered around 90 horsepower, which might seem modest now, but it was groundbreaking back then, especially for a luxury car that also had to be reliable in a time when roads were far from perfect. The Model L made headlines for its exceptional build quality. The body styles varied, from elegant touring cars to sleek roadsters, appealing to a variety of wealthy clients. Many enthusiasts argue that Lincoln's focus on bespoke craftsmanship started with the Model L, and it set the tone for future generations. A lesser-known fact is that these vehicles boasted advanced suspension for their era, giving them a smoother ride at a time when most cars rattled their occupants to the bone. The drawback, however, was the price. Owning a Model L could easily cost more than an average home in those days. That high cost limited production numbers, which is why surviving examples are now so treasured. Jokes aside, if you ever see one at a classic car show, it's hard not to stare. Many collectors believe it laid the foundation for the later, more famous Lincolns that would come after. It's truly a piece of automotive history. Moving on to a car that practically redefined Lincoln's design language, the Lincoln Zephyr turned heads the moment it arrived in 1936. The first thing to mention is that swooping, aerodynamic style. While every other manufacturer was dabbling in boxy shapes, the Zephyr appeared to glide along the road, thanks to Edsel Ford's emphasis on streamlined design. The name itself was inspired by the idea of a light breeze, signifying speed and elegance, very appropriate considering the car's shape. Under the hood, the Zephyr featured a V12 engine. Yes, you heard that right, a V12. It pumped out roughly 110 horsepower, which sounds positively quaint in modern terms. But in the 1930s, it was a luxury rocket ship. Fuel economy wasn't its strong suit, and that was a point of controversy. Some wealthy buyers loved the smoothness and power of the V12, while others grumbled at having to refill so frequently in an era of economic hardship. One rarely discussed quirk is the engine's tendency to overheat if not properly maintained. Many owners complained, but the overall prestige overshadowed such inconveniences. The Zephyr's advanced unibody construction also set it apart, providing a more stable and quiet ride. Many historians credit the Zephyr for paving the way to the iconic Lincoln Continental. The big benefit of owning a Zephyr then, and even now for collectors, is that it combines genuine classic style with engineering that was forward-looking for its time. The main drawback, aside from the fuel consumption, was the limited interior space compared to some rival luxury cars of its era. Even so, the Zephyr remains a high point in Lincoln's design story and certainly earns its place on this list. It's impossible to discuss Lincoln without mentioning the legendary Continental. The first generation, introduced in 1939, was initially a custom build for Edsel Ford's personal use during his Florida vacations. People saw it and wanted one, so Lincoln responded by bringing it into production. The original Continental was all about understated elegance. Unlike some of its contemporaries, it didn't scream opulence through over-the-top chrome or outrageous fins. Instead, it whispered sophistication through clean lines and a distinctive rear-mounted spare tire, a design cue that remains iconic to this day. Under its refined exterior was the same V12 engine that powered the Zephyr. It delivered a smooth, consistent ride, though maintenance could be tricky. Rumor has it that many owners were surprised by how often the car needed tune-ups to keep that V12 purring. On the flip side, those who took care of it properly were rewarded with the feeling that they were driving a piece of rolling royalty. The original Continental came in both coupe and cabriolet forms, and both versions were absolute showstoppers in their day. A lesser-known gem? It was declared a classic by the Classic Car Club of America while still in production. That's a rare honor and speaks to the respect it commanded among automotive connoisseurs. Controversially, though, some folks felt it was overpriced and overshadowed more practical family cars. But practicality wasn't the point here. The Continental was about refined luxury, turning heads, and showcasing a new design philosophy that looked modern yet somehow timeless. And that's what makes this early Continental such a big part of Lincoln's legacy. The post-war era saw automotive design undergoing massive changes, and Lincoln was right there at the forefront. The Lincoln Cosmopolitan debuted around 1949 for the 1950 model year and was positioned as Lincoln's premium offering, bridging traditional looks with modern tastes. One of the first things you'll notice is the flashy, rounded bodywork that seemed to echo the jet-age enthusiasm of the time. Big grills, curvy fenders, and glamorous two-tone paint jobs made these models stand out in your neighbor's driveway. Equipped with a flathead V8 producing somewhere around 152 horsepower, the Cosmopolitan was no slouch on the open road. It was also one of the first Lincolns to adopt an automatic transmission, known as the Hydra-matic, shared with GM in a controversial cross-brand deal that had some purists up in arms. Despite the convenience, it wasn't exactly bulletproof, and many owners dealt with fluid leaks and mechanical gremlins. But to be fair, early automatic transmissions were still considered cutting edge, so some teething problems were inevitable. Here's an interesting tidbit. The Cosmopolitan wasn't just a road car. Several heavily modified versions of it participated in the Carrera Panamericana, a grueling race across Mexico. Talk about ambition. The Cosmopolitan was also a favorite among heads of state. President Truman even used a stretched version as a presidential limousine. Critics sometimes complained that it was too bulky and that visibility wasn't great, but many consumers were simply dazzled by its style and the Lincoln badge. Looking back, the Cosmopolitan represented a pivotal moment when Lincoln proved it could blend post-war modernity with traditional luxury in one very eye-catching package. Before we move on to the next one in the list, please take a second to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Thanks to all of you who do. If the Cosmopolitan hinted at jet-age design, the Lincoln Premier of the mid-1950s turned the dial up to 11. Not only did it feature those signature tail fins, but it also came loaded with futuristic gadgetry, at least futuristic for the 1950s. Power windows, four-way power seats, and even a push-button door release were all part of the Premier's bag of tricks. Of course, those electronic marvels occasionally malfunctioned, leading to more than a few owners stuck outside of, or occasionally inside of, their own cars. Jokes aside, the fact that Lincoln was experimenting with such features set it apart as a technologically forward brand. Under the hood, the Premier boasted a 368 cubic inch V8 engine, pumping out roughly 285 horsepower, which was quite respectable. The car's ride was best described as floaty, thanks to a suspension designed to absorb road imperfections and keep passengers cradled in comfort. On the flip side, tight corners and sudden stops weren't this car's best friend, and some critics accused Lincoln of focusing more on glitz than on handling. But let's be honest, in the 1950s, it was all about that glamorous cruiser vibe, so the Premier delivered exactly what buyers wanted. An often overlooked aspect of the Premier's success was its marketing. Lincoln unabashedly aimed it at a higher-end crowd, positioning it as a rival to Cadillac's Series 62. The brand's ads showed stylish couples gliding along in a car that seemed straight out of a sci-fi dream. It made a bold statement that Lincoln was no longer playing second fiddle in the American luxury arena. The introduction of more color options and lavish interior materials sealed the deal. If you owned a Premier, you were telling the world you liked your comfort with a splash of space-age flair. And for that, it definitely earns its place in the top 12. Sandwiched in Lincoln's lineup in the 1950s, the Capri often gets overshadowed by the Premier, but it deserves attention for its racing pedigree and unique styling. The Capri introduced a clean look, moving away from the heavily rounded bodies of the late 40s. Chrome detailing was still a star, but it was more tastefully applied. Under the hood, early models had a 317 cubic inch V8 that was eventually upgraded to a 341 cubic inch and then a 368 cubic inch. The horsepower figures crept upwards, but the Capri's real claim to fame was on the track, specifically the Carrera Panamericana, where it shocked enthusiasts by performing exceedingly well. This success in endurance racing gave the Capri a certain cool factor. Fans pointed to its robust engineering, while critics shrugged and said it was too large and heavy to be a real contender. Yet the results spoke for themselves. The Capri managed to achieve top finishes in multiple races, effectively planting Lincoln's flag in high-speed territory. Many owners boasted that their cars inherited some of that competition DNA, though in truth, daily driving a Capri was a far cry from racing. fuel economy was less than stellar, and the suspension was tuned for comfort rather than cornering. A lesser-known tidbit involves the Capri's interior. Lincoln used thicker, sound-deadening materials compared to rivals, giving the cabin an extra layer of hush. That was a huge benefit for traveling salesmen and well-to-do families who wanted to cruise the highways in calm serenity. The drawback was added weight. Complaints emerged about sluggish acceleration, especially in the earlier models. Still, the Capri remains an emblem of Lincoln's 1950s ambition. Luxurious, stylish, and quietly capable of feats on the racetrack that surprised everyone. Now here's where some controversy really kicks in. The Lincoln Versailles, introduced for the 1977 model year, is sometimes referred to as one of Lincoln's biggest missteps. So why is it on a best list? Because, believe it or not, it pioneered several features that would become standard in the luxury market, and it stands as a fascinating example of how Lincoln tried to adapt during a tumultuous era for American cars. Born of the Malaise era's need for fuel efficiency and smaller footprints, the Versailles was essentially a reskinned Ford Granada, but with a lot more chrome and plush interior trims. Critics slammed it for its obvious family car origins, calling it a fancy Granada, which stung Lincoln's reputation. Sales were lackluster, and many brand loyalists refused to accept a compact Lincoln. Under the hood, you either got a 302 cubic inch V8 or a 351, both of which suffered from emissions regulations, producing modest horsepower figures. Nothing like the big block brutes of the 1960s. Despite these drawbacks, the Versailles was one of the first American cars to offer clear coat paint, which improved durability and gloss. It also introduced electronic fuel injection in some later models, a technology that improved drivability, though early systems weren't always reliable. And let's not ignore the plush seating and wood-trimmed dashboard, which still felt very Lincoln. The takeaway? The Versailles might have been a commercial flop, but it represented Lincoln's attempt to modernize. And in hindsight, a few of its features paved the way for the brand's future. Even if some people laugh at it, the Versailles deserves recognition for its place in Lincoln's journey, serving as a cautionary tale and a technological stepping stone all at once. Few names in American automotive history evoke comfort like the Lincoln Town Car. Spanning 3 decades, it became a staple for livery services, politicians, and anyone wanting to ride in roomy, pillow-like seats. The Town Car was known for its body-on-frame construction, a rarity in later years. That design made it easier to repair and modify, which is partly why it became so beloved by limousine companies. The engine varied over time, but the most iconic setup was the 4.6-liter modular V8, offering decent power and that smooth, wafting ride Lincoln owners crave. One big benefit was the interior space. Let's just say if you didn't have enough legroom in a town car, you might be taller than an NBA center. Another advantage was reliability. These cars were built to last, often racking up hundreds of thousands of miles when maintained properly. A lesser-known tidbit is that the Town Car had advanced safety features for its class, such as standard ABS in later models, and it scored well in crash tests for a big, traditional sedan. Still, it had its detractors. Some folks argued that the Town Car was too conservative, clinging to an old-fashioned style when the market was shifting to SUVs and more modern sedans. And let's not forget the fuel economy, which was, at best, described as thirsty. But the Town Car's role as a cultural icon can't be overstated. It appeared in countless movies, from gangster flicks to comedies, always symbolizing prestige, comfort, or that quintessential American chauffeur-driven experience. By the time it was discontinued in 2011, it had already cemented its legacy as one of Lincoln's longest-running and most instantly recognizable nameplates. If you're talking about pioneering the full-size luxury SUV craze, you have to tip your hat to the Lincoln Navigator. When it launched in 1998, the idea of a plush SUV loaded with leather and gadgets was still relatively new. Sure, the GMC Yukon and Chevy Suburban were around, but the Navigator took things to a higher level. This beast was powered by a 5.4-liter V8 in its early iterations, offering up to 300 horsepower, plenty for towing a boat or just cruising the neighborhood with a bit of swagger. One obvious benefit was the cavernous interior. Families loved the space, and executives loved the image. The Navigator gave Lincoln a new, younger demographic to chase, which was crucial at a time when the brand was teetering on feeling too old-fashioned. As the years rolled on, Lincoln refined the Navigator, adding high-tech features like advanced infotainment systems, adaptive cruise control, and powered running boards that greeted you when you opened the door. Critics pointed to the Navigator's size as both a benefit and a drawback. Great for comfort, but not exactly nimble in city traffic. It also faced controversy over fuel economy. Early models gulped gas at an alarming rate, and with rising fuel prices in the 2000s, some questioned whether such a large SUV was sustainable. But sales figures consistently showed that buyers were willing to pay for that commanding driving position and luxurious cabin. Interestingly, the Navigator was among the first domestic SUVs to really challenge high-end imports, proving that an American brand could deliver a top-tier luxury experience in an SUV format. These days, the Navigator remains a flagship, offering a modern twin-turbo V6 that delivers both power and slightly better efficiency, though efficient is still relative. Love it or hate it, you can't deny the massive influence it's had on Lincoln's modern identity. The Lincoln LS was something of a departure for the brand, a sports sedan aimed at younger drivers who might otherwise consider BMW or Mercedes. It had rear-wheel drive, an aluminum-intensive chassis, and the choice of a V6 or a V8. This was Lincoln trying to prove it could be sporty, not just comfy. The handling was surprisingly nimble for a Lincoln, with a fully independent suspension that made winding roads feel fun rather than frightening. Car critics were initially impressed, calling it the baby Jaguar, since it shared some DNA with the Jaguar S-Type platform. Controversy arose around the reliability of the early V8 models. Electrical gremlins, coil pack failures, and coolant leaks were among the common complaints. Some owners joked that LS stood for lovely, sometimes. Still, those who got a good one and maintained it properly found a sweet spot between luxury and driving pleasure that American sedans rarely provided at the time. In terms of design, the LS was clean and understated, leaning more toward European styling cues. Inside, it offered leather seats, a dash full of digital readouts, and optional tech like a navigation system, not a given in the early 2000s. Fuel economy was relatively acceptable, especially with the V6, though the V8 version definitely had more pep. It was also a stepping stone to Lincoln's attempt to modernize its lineup, with models like the MKZ that would follow. Even though it never reached the same legendary status as some German rivals, the LS stands as a gutsy move from Lincoln, a real shift toward performance-oriented luxury. Nowadays, a well-maintained LS can be a hidden gem on the used market, offering a unique blend of American luxury and European handling flair. While the Aviator nameplate first appeared in the early 2000s, it's the modern iteration launched in 2020 that really earns its spot here. Riding on a rear-wheel drive architecture shared with the Ford Explorer, the new Aviator took a leap forward in design, technology, and performance. Right away, that grille grabs your attention. Bold, elegant, and distinctly Lincoln. The interior is arguably one of Lincoln's finest achievements in recent years, featuring top-notch materials, a digital instrument cluster, and a Revel audio system that can turn your favorite tunes into a rolling concert. Under the hood, the base engine is a twin-turbocharged 3.0-liter V6, pushing out around 400 horsepower. That's already a healthy figure for a mid-size SUV, but then there's the Grand Touring plug-in hybrid model, which boosts combined output to around 494 horsepower. That's sports car territory. Of course, with all that power, you also get a pretty sizable price tag, and the plug-in hybrid's real-world electric range often falls short of the advertised number. Some owners and reviewers noted inconsistent software updates and occasional glitches in the infotainment system, issues that can frustrate early adopters of advanced tech. Nevertheless, the Aviator's smooth ride and crisp acceleration highlight Lincoln's quiet flight philosophy. It balances comfort and agility, so you don't feel like you're driving a barge. A lesser-known fact is that Lincoln focused on creating a specific interior smell, called the Lincoln Embrace, to evoke a luxurious sensory experience. It's a quirky detail, but it shows the level of thought put into crafting the Aviator's environment. Critics say it's still overshadowed by some European rivals, but for a mid-size American luxury SUV, it's hard to beat. This modern Aviator proves that Lincoln can blend tradition with contemporary needs, delivering style, performance, and a dash of eco-friendly technology. We've finally arrived at number 1, and it shouldn't surprise any Lincoln aficionado that the 1961-1969 Continental takes the crown. This is the car that redefined Lincoln's image during the swinging 60s, championed by Ford's then Vice President of Styling, Elwood Engel. Gone were the bulky, over-decorated shapes of the 1950s, replaced by crisp, minimalist lines that remain influential in automotive design to this day. The iconic center-opening suicide doors were more than just a styling gimmick. They made it incredibly easy to get in and out, especially for VIP passengers. Power came from a big block V8 ranging between 430 and 462 cubic inches over the years, delivering enough torque to move this hefty sedan with relative grace. The ride was famously smooth, a hallmark of Lincoln's focus on isolating the cabin from road imperfections. At the same time, the sheer size of the car could be intimidating in tight urban environments, a drawback for some. Then there's the elephant in the room. The 1961 Continental was the basis for the limousine involved in President John F. Kennedy's assassination in 1963. That tragic event cast a shadow over the car's otherwise celebrated reputation. Interestingly, though, the White House continued to use modified Continentals for years afterward, a testament to the model's timeless appeal and robust construction. The 1960s Continental played a starring role in pop culture, appearing in films, TV shows, and plenty of celebrity garages. People loved it for its modern aesthetic and unmatched comfort. The trunk space was enormous, and the interior oozed mid-century modern sophistication. Even so, owners would sometimes gripe about the occasional electrical fault, especially with those power windows and door locks. But the sense of style and heritage more than made up for it. Today, these Continentals fetch high prices in the collector market, celebrated as emblematic of American luxury and design innovation. If you had to sum up Lincoln in one car, this would be it. A perfect blend of grace, history, and that special something that sets a true classic apart. Jokes aside, these 12 icons showcase Lincoln's evolution, from pre-war masterpieces to modern SUVs brimming with tech. Hope you found this breakdown both fun and informative. Let us know which Lincoln model caught your eye the most. If you enjoyed our countdown, don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more automotive deep dives. We've got plenty of exciting topics on the way, so hit that bell icon to stay up to date. Thanks for watching, and we'll catch you in the next one.